let me jump to a very different story here. And this involves, let me pull it up for you. Here we go. Boom. This story involves Mays Middleton. This is a state lawmaker from Texas. And basically, earlier this year, Texas Republicans basically control the legislature there. They have the governor's mansion too. They can do whatever they want. And this guy filed a bill earlier this year that would allow. I'm going to show you this bill here. Check this out. Look at just the beginning. Yeah, you could see this. The top provision of this bill, it says a school district or open enrollment charter school may employ or accept as a volunteer a chaplain to provide support services and programs for students as a yada 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 yada. Okay, a chaplain employed or volunteering under this chapter is not required to be certified by the State Board for Education Certification. Here's what that basically means. Middleton, the guy you saw there a second ago, his bill said schools don't have to spend money on counselors, mental health professionals, or anyone like that. They could just replace them, those trained social workers, you could replace them with untrained and uncertified chaplains. And really what he means by that is Christian chaplains, right? So that's what this guy wanted to do. And the bill passed because, of course, it passed because Texas, right? And so this is what they ended up doing. They passed that bill. And now by the way, I should point out, this is from the Houston Chronicle last year. Texas public schools that serve just about every kid in the state, 98% of students in the state, those schools did not meet the Texas Education Agency's recommendation of one counselor per 250 students, meaning they don't even have the counselors they need. But why aren't they hiring more counselors? Well, they need money to do that. And guess what? Texas has a budget surplus of about 33 billion with a B dollars. But they're not using that money to hire more social workers and trained professionals. This guy, Mays Middleton, and the Republicans in Texas want to put Christian chaplains into the schools instead. So that's what the bill was. They signed it. They passed it like in the spring. Greg Abbott, the governor, passed it. He signed it into law over the summer, and it's implemented literally September 1st. Today is the date when it goes into effect for the new school year. And the reason I bring it up is because of this right here. You could see the date line on this. It's August 22nd. So it's about a week ago. But basically, 100 plus Texas chaplains have now written this letter and sent it to districts across the state, basically telling Texas school boards not to hire them and people like them, even though they have the right to do it now. They're saying, don't do it. We are not qualified to do what those trained professionals do. These chaplains are like, yeah, we have a role to play. We're not downplaying. We're not like it's not false modesty here. We're good at what we do, but what we do is not work with kids. And we don't do the things that a social worker ought to be doing or a mental health counselor should be doing. So I want to read some of this letter because it's really important here. Check out some of the stuff they're highlighting. Because of our training and experience, we know that chaplains are not a replacement for school counselors or safety measures in our public schools. We urge you to reject this flawed policy option. It is harmful to our public schools and the students and families they serve. If you look down here even, the bill allows the school district to give any employee or volunteer who could pass a background check the title of chaplain. This is simply not enough. That's a crazy point right there. Like, what qualifications do you need to be a chaplain? Let me back up for a second. What is a chaplain? A chaplain is basically like a pastor who is counseling you, and it could be of any religious tradition. But in some traditions, they have hoops you got to jump through to be a chaplain. In the military, there are like certain rules that apply before they accept you as a religious chaplain. But technically speaking, according to this Texas bill, there are no hoops. Anyone has, if you're a chaplain, you're a chaplain. What is stopping like independent Baptist churches that don't have a hierarchy there? What's stopping them from just saying, hey, men in the room, stand up. You're all chaplains now. We dub you chaplains with our magic wand and Jesus stick. Nothing is stopping them from doing that. So, really, this bill is nothing more than a way to just get Christians into public schools. By the way, the bill also does not say you can't proselytize. There's nothing in the bill that says you have to provide like relevant services to people who don't share your faith. So, what happens if a Christian chaplain has to work with a Jewish kid or an atheist kid or a Muslim student or something? They could just preach the gospel message, which doesn't make any sense. So, like, that's what these people are talking about. These are the chaplains saying, don't do this. They're saying anyone can become a chaplain, and that's not good either. They go on. As trained chaplains, we strongly caution against the government assertion of authority for the spiritual development and formation of our public school children. Yeah, why is the government pushing chaplains on kids? I mean, if anything, if you're a Republican, you would say spiritual development ought to be the parents' job, not the school's job. And yet, here's potentially all these school districts saying, we're going to shove some Christians in your face and see what happens. I mean, just a horrible bill all the way across, but it goes into effect now. Um, so the thing I want to point out about some of this stuff, this letter also pointed out, as trained chaplains, we are not qualified for the duties envisioned by this law. We cooperate with mental health counselors. We do not compete with them. We urge you to support religious freedom and parental rights by rejecting this harmful program. We believe that a strong public school system is one in which the limited funding for safety and security of students is used to hire the most skilled professionals for these roles. I mean, yeah, they're absolutely right there. And do you know how courageous may not be the right word, but like how important it is for these professional chaplains, many of whom have like PhDs or years of experience doing it, for them to say, don't hire us. There are better people to do the job. Hire them instead. That kind of humility is something you don't see in conservative Christians by and large. Like they will just assume by nature of being Christian, we are already qualified to help students more than trained mental health counselors who don't talk about Jesus in every sentence. But they'll never admit that. Like they'll never admit they don't have the skills necessary. I should point out that part of the law also says school districts across the state of Texas have to vote, like within the next 6 months, I believe, they have to decide whether they want to take on Christian chaplains. Because remember, the law said you can do it, but we're not forcing you to do it. But districts have to make a decision about whether they're going to have like a chaplain strike force or something. And so what this letter is doing is saying, hey, school districts, you're all about to vote on this. Vote no. Make sure you hire the best trained professionals you can find, but please don't take on chaplains. So, I mean, the letter also, it's an acknowledgement that the law was purposely written to have enough holes in it for bad actors, by which I mean like conservative Christians who have no formal training to sneak through. Like if you're a good chaplain, the last thing you want to see are bad chaplains getting into school districts and harming students. And I'm not even talking about like physical abuse or mental abuse or anything like that, but they're not qualified to deal with kids with real world problems necessarily. And I definitely don't want an atheist student having to deal with a purposely religious counselor who is there to promote religion. That doesn't work for either side. So hopefully, some sensible school districts will just say, no, we are not bringing on chaplains, even though the state is now giving us permission to do it. I hope they listen to these 100 chaplains who are saying don't do it. And by the way, the people who put that together include groups like the Interfaith Alliance, the Baptist Joint Committee for Religious Liberty, and a group called Texas Impact. These are not like hardcore atheist groups saying this. These are interfaith groups saying we respect religious freedom. This ain't it. And they also said if you're a chaplain in Texas and you want to sign their letter, you can join in and help put some pressure on these school districts. That might be a good thing. So we'll see how that turns out. But the school year is starting, so there's reason to be worried. I hope that doesn't happen, but it looks like it's happening.